I'm just going to start the recording. Bismillah ar Rahim. So we left off talking about Allah's beautiful names, Rahman and Rahim. And we were on the name Rahim. And we have discussed earlier that the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rahman and Rahim, they originate from the word Raham. And also there is a difference to the grammatical connotations of the two names Rahman and Rahim. And the way the scholars have differentiated between the two names, they do say that these two names, they are extremely extensive in their meanings, almost infinite. They come from the word womb, which is the place of unconditional love. But they also say that both these names, because they originate from the womb, they are the mother of all names, before which they do say that Allah comes first. Now, for these names to come in Surah Al-Fatiha has so much significance because we do believe that Surah Al-Fatiha is the mother of all the surahs in the Quran. It is the beginning of the surah of the Quran. It is the door to the Quran. It is the opening. And Surah Fatiha can then be connected to Allah's name, Fatah. And we will get into that a little later. But right now we're going to go back to Allah's name, Rahim. And we mentioned that in our discussions, we have concluded that there's never a conclusion with our work. So it's wrong to say that we're concluding, but to say that we have understood that while Rahman is a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is open to everyone, and it is a general mercy, Rahim is the mercy that Allah gives to those who open their hearts. All right. Now, it's very important to also mention here that is it that Allah is giving and taking? Is He in a transaction with us? No, I think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's presence and mercy around us is like a flowing river or an ocean which is open to all. And this mercy is for us to take. We have to open ourselves to take that mercy which is available to us. And therefore, it is important to understand that the give and take is never from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is ironically the essence of these names, that the part of Raham, which is the part of the name which is Raham, which is the womb, is a place of unconditional. So unconditional then is something which is beyond give and take, which is not about me doing something and getting something in return. So what is it that we're trying to talk about here, where we're saying that, Rahim is a special mercy and, some people will be able to access it. What we're trying to say here is that if, for example, I talk about the example of the Wi-Fi device. If the Wi-Fi device is open, then for example, the cell phone that will open itself to the Wi-Fi will be able to access it. So that would somehow define the difference. There's a Wi-Fi which is open to all, which is Rahman, and then there's a Wi-Fi connection which is particularly available to those who have access to the password. And that's why we go into this journey of the soul. We want to find the mysteries of our existence. We want to find the mysteries of our purpose in life and where we originate from and who our God is. And for that, it becomes very imperative that we understand again and again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I am able to be accessed through your heart. I am available to you through your heart. It's not a mind game. It's not a brain game. It is available to us through our heart. And so we go into Raheem with this understanding that I would like to experience, discover, explore the keys of the unseen, perhaps, if that is how we can say it, the keys to that access code of the special mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I would like to now read from the book that we've been reading from. I hope that I'm not missing any parts. I'm just gonna go back a little. Um, Although the videos are available, and maybe you recently um, heard my video, but I think for the live audience right now, for myself and for you, it's a good idea that we just repeat for a reminder. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mercy encompasses. I'm reading about Ar Rahim, right, from this book over here. Mercy encompasses compassion, sympathy, and the ability to forgive. There is a form of mercy that manifests before the need for it arises, a compassion that flows continuously from the divine to all creatures, protecting, preserving, and guiding them to the light and to a higher life. Ar Rahman is the ebb that takes us back to our origin. It is the grace that enables us to grow beyond our human and earthly limitations so that we may breathe the paradise of unity. Wisdom, knowledge, and balance are basic qualities of our being, of our deep being. Unity, wisdom, knowledge, balance. In Sufism, the ocean symbolizes unity, whereby Ar Rahman and Ar Rahim are like ebb and flow. Allah has sent us tidal waves from the sea of infinity to the shores of our finite world through the revelations of His messengers. Revelations of His messengers. Sufism is the longing to throw ourselves into in these waves and to let it sweep us back into our infinite source, our boundless origin. For most believers, only the water left behind in the hollows matters, namely the outer form of religion. Yet the Sufis want to understand, to know, to love unconditionally. They use the outer form in order to comprehend the inner, uniting wisdom. So, Martin Lings, in his book Symbols and Archetypes, talks about this outer and the inner. And he says that if we could understand that this outer is the doorway to the reality of life, but if we could see the world as a kaleidoscope, as a concoction of only symbols, if we could see everything as a symbol, we would tap into the reality of the world. And I was listening to a documentary on energy work, and this lady, she's a doctor, PhD in quantum work, and she was explaining how the world around us is illusionary. And if we look at matter at the most atomic level, even further than that, we see that what we're seeing is not what we're seeing. These are masses of energy. And so we realize that the building bricks of all matter becomes energy, which is not tangible in that sense. It's not matter. And so the idea that the world is illusionary, the idea that whatever we're seeing is a doorway to another reality, is to again come back to what our mystics say. And our mystics tell us that what we're seeing is not real, but the real world is far more real than what we're seeing. Now, for someone like me, it's very difficult to comprehend such a thing, that what I'm seeing is not real, but what I can't see is real. It's quite contradictory. But the mystics who have experienced glimpses of that world, or who have, passed on into that world, they tell us how crystal and beautiful and clear and real that world is. And they tell us that that reality is far more, real to them than this. And the illusion opens up to them. The passing nature, the temporary nature of this world opens up to them. The significant thing about the studies we're doing into Quran, which is a reminder for all of us, is that yes, we grew up with the ideas of Jahannam and Jannat and the hereafter and the day of judgment, and we always perceived them in our future. And we said that these are things that will come, and therefore we need to prepare for them. And this world is a preparatory ground. And the Holy Prophet says, Ad-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. This world is a farming, harvesting ground for the akhirah. Now, I want to bring back that perspective to all of us, including myself, that this world right now only consists of the present moment. The only reality we have in our hands, the only dadra, the only riches, the richness that we have, the only uh, per se, the bank balance we have right now is the present moment. That's the only reality we hold right now. So, what we need to understand is that if that is the only moment right now, and if deep spiritual masters will only talk about the present moment, then we need to reconcile the future ideas of accountability and consequence, and incorporate it into the present moment. And for that, I always say that the akhirah and the day of judgment and the moment of accountability. So Yawmiddin is the moment of accountability. And all of that exists in this present moment right now within me. And as a child, when I used to think about these concepts, and my teacher would say, it's over here and it is right now, I would start imagining pictures of a heaven or a hell inside of me in my body. And as a biology student, I would say, well, they don't exist inside me, right? I can only see the heart being pumped and a cage of, the rib cage and the heart and all of these biological systems that are running within me. And so, where is this world right now? I can't see it. And the shift comes when you understand that you are not just your body, but you're also your soul, and the experiences of your emotions, and the experiences of your spirituality. And that is your higher reality. And if we can tap into that in the present moment, we can awaken to a reality which most people will experience or awaken to once they have passed on and transitioned from this realm. And for that, it becomes very, very important to fine tune our inner world, become really aware of our inner world. And with the COVID happening, and now we're going back into again into lockdowns and all of that, it seems that humanity still has a lot of work to do of going inwards. Because, like I always say, that wherever we turn is the face of God. And so, COVID is a face of God. It is something that cannot have happened beyond the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's part of His beautiful plan of our growth. And while we are uh, in the present moment responsible for our actions, in the present moment, we can not only exercise but feel our free will. We realize that when the moment has gone, for example, from yesterday till today, I have transitioned. Now, yesterday is not in my control, but whatever has happened in yesterday, and I am reaping its consequences today, it is still encompassed in the hands of the goodness of God. It is still biyadikal khair, right? Everything is within the goodness and khair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore it becomes, excuse me. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna grab a glass of water. So sorry about that. So it becomes really important to for us in our understanding to come into this present moment and understand that whatever is happening within us um, has to be experienced in the present moment. and the reality of this life is far more real from within. So we were discussing Rahim, and was there a thought that I completely forgot before I went for the water? If anybody would like to just remind me if I've forgotten anything, so I'll just continue from there. Just write it in the chat if there was anything, and then I will continue, because I think what where I wanted to bring you all is to understand how we can reap this fine tuning into the reality of the inner world through the present moment. And for that, it becomes very important that we start to believe that our uh, our power of free will and Allah's goodness. Yeah, that's what I was saying. The biyadikal khair, the goodness in Allah's hand encompasses everything. And so we were talking about COVID and the goodness in it, and the need for us to grow through this and go inwards. These are all processes of the opening of the heart, right? Which is our topic today, which is about Ar Rahim, the opening of the heart. So, adversities in life, difficulties in life often will throw us off track, and they are the doors or the symbols that we need to use in unlocking the heart. Now, what I was telling you about Martin Lings is that Martin Lings said that everything is a symbol. And Allah is saying in the Quran that wherever you turn is the face of God. What is that? What is that perception that I can get so that I can get that X-ray vision beyond these symbols and finally be able to see that reality with an open heart? That vision is the gift of those who can access Ar Rahim, that vision beyond the symbol. And if you see your mother, but you can actually see God, if you see food and if you can see God, if you see the weather and you can see God, in all of that, if you can start seeing God's meticulous planning and you can see God, like, then what happens is that we can start to access this kind of rahmah. We can access this kind of beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the real vision which Allah keeps for his special friends. So I'm going to read on further, and then we'll expound more on this. We human beings carry in us much pain and loneliness and a deep need to be free. Most of us react to unpleasant experiences by blocking our feelings. But our feelings are the connection between body and spirit. When we block them and they become stiff, we hamper the natural flow of energy, thus preventing ourselves from developing and maturing. So I want to touch a little bit on the word free. Sheikh Fadlullah Hairi, a beautiful scholar and mystic, he says that our need to be free manifests itself in our desire to travel a lot of times. And we've seen that the travel industry has really grown recently. We see, all of that, but we see that suddenly because of COVID, we can't travel. And so there's a constriction. And he says that because the soul is of no realm, the soul doesn't belong to a place and time. The soul seeks these experiences, these sparks of experiences of being able to travel, to be on the plane, to fly, because those are the intrinsic qualities of the soul. Now, while the soul is seeking all of that, and we somehow try to fulfill it in an outer journey, because it somehow is symbolic of the freedom of the soul, we are now constricted. And Sheikh Fallahi says something really beautiful. He says that outer constriction leads to inner expansion. And we want that expansion, and the soul, in its promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has come to this world to be able to, find that inner expansion. But the body part of us not only has forgotten that promise or that yearning and longing, but it's confused and lost, and it doesn't remember that it has made that promise of wanting this inner expansion. So what does this outer constriction do for us? It takes us away from distractions. And if we awaken to life's purpose, then we will see that everything in the universe is a servant serving us, working for us laboriously in enabling our awakening. So the entire universe is in service to our awakening. And that's why when we say that insan is in kabad, insan is in a state of turmoil and hardship all the time, it's because everything around us has been programmed to create this opening within us, to help us grow, right? And therefore, it is very important for us to understand that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I made you for me, but I made the world for you, a lot of times, even as a, in my younger times, I would, in my initial work with the Quran, which was very tertiary, very literal, it was all about, oh, so biology is here for me to understand God, and physics is for me to understand God, and chemistry is here for me to understand God. But and of course they're there, and they are the doorways to our awe and our our sense of majesty for God and the mystery that we see. Recently I saw very, very high resolution image of the human cell, and I posted it on Facebook, and it looked like a piece of art. It was so gorgeous. All of these things, they add to my stronger connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet, with time, how websites, they refresh themselves. We see that meanings to Quran, they refresh, and as we move forward, we go deeper and deeper into the infinite layers of these meanings. In the infinite, as the soul grows deeper, the meanings also change, and that is the miracle of the Quran, and also spiritual wisdom that comes from that pure source. So the whole universe is in my service. And yet I see that I'm not living like a queen, in that sense that I'm just sitting and ordering around and things are happening my way. To the contrary, I see things not happening the way a lot of times I perceive them to be happening. And I see that a lot of challenges come my way, and I see that a lot of difficulties come my way, and it leaves me completely flabbergasted what's going on. So, what is going on will only make sense when I come back to my reality and start to understand that a part of me is soul, and a part of me is the being that has the purpose of accessing that divine wisdom and God. And therefore, it is very important for me to keep changing and to keep shifting out of this mindset of the material. And it's very hard because most of the time I am surrounded by these tangible things, and so my soul goes kind of out of my mind, right, out of sight, out of mind, kind of thing, and I forget. And that's the awakening, the moment to moment awakening of coming back to my reality. This is a soul journey. My purpose is something higher than just this body. My purpose is higher than whatever the world is engrossed in, amassing wealth and all of that. And then automatically understanding that completely engrossing ourselves in social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, doesn't really bring me the joy. In fact, all studies, not even one will say that they bring joy to a human being. They actually create a lot of sense of inadequacy in us. So internally, we have our sensors ready, always picking on the things that create harmony and peace within us. And there is something that keeps pulling us away from this journey, from this sense of peace, from the things that bring me connection to the divine. And I have to constantly keep coming back. Now, in meditation, because I do teach meditation and practice it, a lot of people who are new, who haven't done it, who try to come back to it, they struggle and they kind of give up a lot of times because they believe that, in meditation, you're supposed to reach a place of Zen and no thoughts and, all of that. But Honestly, in my 3 years of working in meditation, I have realized that the only task that we have is to keep coming back, right? It is in returning that our success lies. It is not in reaching. It is not in reaching the summit of the mountain that this journey has success. Constantly, it's inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. I am from you and I'm returning to you. I am from you and I'm returning to you. So there's this constant cycle of going back moment to moment. Um, there is a constant forgetfulness and there's a constant returning, and therefore the awakening is also moment to moment. There are awakened moments and then there are moments of slumber. And what a mystic or what a wayfarer is meant to do in this journey is to constantly remember and remind itself and go back and constantly make this journey of the return moment to moment. And then, of course, with practice, a lot of these beautiful people, a lot of these beautiful friends of God, they have practiced it enough to go back into a state of constantly being in a state of awakenedness, right? Of constantly being in a state of um, um, being mindful, being mindful of the purpose, being mindful of the reality, and being mindful of the nature of the human being who keeps forgetting. And we do know that the name Insan, the name Allah has given us, Insan, is a name which comes from the word Nisyan. And Nisyan in Urdu over here is very common, like Nisyan is a bimari, like it's a disease of forgetfulness, like you have dementia or something like that. So insan is coming from that, root. Our nature is that we forget. And so Ar Rahim is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which can be accessed, embodied, and benefited from when we understand, yes, it is my nature to forget, and yes, it is my journey to keep coming back again and again. And if I forget, I just have to gently bring myself back to it. And that then becomes our practice in everything that we're doing throughout the day, every day. And when we come to a point in life where we're seeing problems come up, so it was really surprising that I was going through something, and someone posted online just 2 3 days ago, saying that in this time of COVID, doing relationships, something about relationships being really hard or something. And it resonated with me so much, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that other people are also going through this. And there was this connection we made over that point. And the point is that, again, to see these difficulties coming our way as an opportunity. And when we change that lens, when we first of all feel like somebody's got my back, my God has got my back, he's the God of infinite mercy and all of that. First we establish that I'm supported. I'm not hanging in midair, I'm not jumping off a cliff with no support. Once we establish that, and then we come into this perspective and we put on this lens and we say, what is this saying to me? Bringing in that curiosity and saying, in this moment in my life, what is this moment reminding me of? What is God speaking to me through this incident or this person or this experience, right? And then delving into it and then wanting to sort it out or explore it without any shame or guilt, without going into that self-criticism and putting ourselves down and saying, but why did I end up here, and why did I do this, and how could I end up here? Because I've struggled with that sense of perfection in everything. And when we slowly bring awareness to these thoughts, and we start dialogues with ourselves, we feed these kinds of whatever conversation I'm doing with you, we read these books. Imam Hassan alayhi salam says that your ears are the doors to your heart. So whatever you're going to be feeding is you are making your soul into that. You're building your soul into that. So the more, we hear of God's mercy, the more we hear of his support, the repetition of these messages builds this resilience within us to self-coach ourselves in those moments. And an inner dialogue will happen, but it will be a shifted dialogue where we will become our own best friend, and we won't let ourselves, wallow in complaints and pain and self-criticism and all of that, but we would literally be there for ourselves as our own best selves. We actually become our own a representative of God to ourselves. So we awaken the inner messenger to our own inner self, and that's how we start to access Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy to ourselves. We open that door of his mercy to ourselves at all times, and it becomes like a a beautiful spa. It becomes like a beautiful oasis that is available to us at all times. And so again, the wakefulness comes through our um, understanding of constantly returning. And with this dialogue that we can create with ourselves within, uh, of a best friend, of a friend who's the most encouraging, motivating speaker to yourself, right? If we can do that, then we can traverse the valleys of this journey, because there are troughs and floats, right? We go high and we go low, and that's actually a very beautiful nature of the soul. And if we take the soul in the sense of qalb, and if we take qalb in the sense of the heart, then the ECG is constantly going up and down. If it goes straight, it's dead. So the journey of the soul is all about the mountains and the valleys. And when we're going through, so the heart will experience these bursts of connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes. Sometimes the namaz will be really good and you will feel really focused and connected. And then sometimes you just can't get into it. And these are the valleys, these are the moments of disconnection. And Ibn Arabi, God bless him, has given us this understanding of the breath of compassionate. And breath is the expansion and contraction, right, of the lungs, of the breath. And this expansion and contraction is also part of the outer universe. We're seeing that the universe also contracts and expands, because again the Quran is saying that the inner and the outer reflect each other in such an it's in such a calculated and meticulous way. So this valley of the soul where we feel disconnected, we feel ungrateful, there's two states of the heart, kafura and shakura. So we go into that state of kafura, not saying that it's kufr. I've said it before. Kafura is not kufr, but kafura, for me, an understanding of it is that kafura comes from the word kufr, and a kafir actually means a farmer. Reason that the farmer is the one who hides the seed under the soil. And so the kafir is a person who's hiding something. So generally it would be taken as, oh, a kafir is someone to whom the truth came, the prophet came, but they denied it deliberately. So that's the outer literal meaning of a kafir. But how do I make everything in the Quran relevant to me? I see that dimension within me. What is that kafir dimension within me right now? And that dimension is me not being able to see the blessing when it's there. There are a lot of blessings, they're right there in front of me, but I'm refusing to see it and find gratitude for it. So when we enter a state of negativity, and we enter a state of disconnection, and we enter a state of kafura, we enter a state of ingratitude, we end up feeling disconnected, unhappy, unsatisfied, and all of those feelings come over us. And to traverse those valleys of this lowness, we have to be gentle on ourselves. We have to be so kind to ourselves, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly saying, I'm Rahman and Raheem. He's also reminding us to emulate him and be that Rahman and Raheem for ourselves. And always, again, a reminder that if we can be Rahman and Rahim for ourselves, and if we can fill our cups with a certain thing, it will ooze out. It will, you know, it will flow out of us towards other people. As a mother, I would I would really struggle with showing mercy to my children because I wasn't modeled that in my childhood. I grew up with very disciplined and very strict parents, and Allah bless them. They had the best intentions and they wanted good for me, and I can see a lot of fruits of their hard work in whatever Allah has blessed me with. But again, we're always learning, and those things didn't work for my children in their upbringing, and I saw a lot of things backfiring because that kind of discipline and strictness maybe worked for me, but it's not working for my children. And that's because the entire human race is evolving, and we're all evolving to our truer nature. We're all working towards authenticity, and in essence, the human fitra works with mercy. That is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not constantly reminding us of his discipline, of his punishment and all of that. As the precursor to every surah, his punishments and everything are there. But when he's saying that I'm Rahman and Raheem and all of that, it's been often repeated. It's repeated so many times and it's there everywhere. And Allah's constantly saying, my mercy overcomes my wrath. He's saying all of these things. And so we have to sort these things out in our minds again and again and keep going back to that place of mercy, that reservoir, that ocean, that oasis of mercy that can wash away everything else again and again. What I also want to bring to our attention here is that a lot of the truths that were fed to us, a lot of beliefs that were given to us, with time have to be shed. They have to be left, and we have to move forward like a snake sheds its skin. So it's very important for us to understand that we as humanity are going to change, and we as humanity are going to constantly evolve, and a lot of things that worked for us earlier may stop working for us, and it may feel very alien, it may feel very uncomfortable, it may not gel with us, or we won't feel that we're in our skin when these changes come. The reason I say this is because it's a very important component of Allah's name, Ar Rahim. Why? Because when we open our heart, then we invite into our life new experiences and a new lens to experience those experiences. Now, what that does to us is it causes change. Something that we weren't comfortable with, we're stepping out of our comfort zone and now we're inviting it into our lives. For example, being okay with a mistake I made and being gentle on myself. I will worry that if I'm gentle with myself, I'll become careless about it. And if I'm careless about it, I may sin more. And we see Imam Zainal Abidin talking in Sefer Sajadiya and saying, "Oh Allah, you're so kind that I feel encouraged to make mistakes so many times. I sin so many times because I have such a huge reliance on your mercy." So we have to understand that things are a lot easier, nicer, simpler, relaxed in the realm of our journey to God than it has been portrayed to us. But what I also want to say is that this new invitation to new experiences in our lives, they can completely jolt us, they can completely shake us out of our comfort zone and all of that. But the truth is that when we invite these experiences into our life, they are going to help us evolve and become a completely new person. It's as if the bud will open and a new petal will reveal itself, and that can be very confusing sometimes. And what I want to say is the hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ here, or the Aimma, and they say that one day of a believer cannot be the same as the next day. And for me, that hadith became my North Star, you know, in my journey. And I realized that at some point we all hit a dead end where we feel like, oh, I've done enough, or I've read enough, or you know, now I know it. And that's exactly the point of stagnation. And if we can hold on to this hadith and say, no, I have to keep changing, then we see there's a saying by a beautiful mystic, Alan Watts, and he says that you're under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. And in my own life, I have seen people really like confused, seeing the different seasons of my life and saying, but why isn't there stability? Why isn't there a consistency? And I would doubt myself and I would say, really, okay, maybe I need to look for stability or consistency. But again, when we go deep inside ourselves and we sit with ourselves and we reflect, we realize that what is the intention? What was the intention? Is stability the intention? Is the constancy the intention? The consistency the intention? What is the intention? And again, we go back to the intention of becoming godly so that we become more like God, so that we find proximity with God. And we also find proximity with God by knowing Him. And the more we know Him, the more we realize that those very qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are all within me. Allah is saying, I taught Adam all of my names. All of those qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are like unactivated crystals within me, right? And my work is to start activating those modalities, those names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within me and change. Change is my intention. Change is my journey. So when change comes, we get confused because of the way the world has become. And just a last point before I end, we have to open our eyes to the absolute structuredness of the world around us, where we've been put into that wheel, the one with the hamster runs through on that wheel, right? And we've been put there because we've really structured everything. We really made everything so boxed, and everything has to be, cause and effect, and everything has to have a logic and a reason and a tangible understanding. And what that has done is that it has really taken us away from our intuitive thinking. It has taken us away from what feels right. In fact, I feel that a huge part of my life went in a shaming process of shaming my intuition and saying, but sorry, you don't just feel things. It's regarded as something very unreliable to say that, oh, but this feels right or that doesn't feel right. And what I want to remind us all is that intuition is not only a beautiful and precious gift, but it's also part of the feminine nature. That's part of God's Rahmaniya. That's part of God's feminine energy, feminine beauty, because we all know that the root of the word Rahman and Rahim is womb, and womb is stationed in a female. And so that becomes part of the female energy. And a woman is more intuitive, more emotional in her nature. And now look at that. Now look at a woman as a symbol of God's knowledge of his feminine nature, his feminine energy. What are these characters of God that a female is embodying? And so the intuition and the emotion that comes through the woman becomes this beautiful gem of knowing of a piece of self knowledge for me and for all men and women. What is this Rahmaniya that comes through intuition when things feel right or they feel right in your gut? You have a gut feeling. And we have to move back to that. We have to go back to that, because that is where the voice of God is. And we all know that we face the Kaaba every day, and the Kaaba is the house of God. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the whole universe could have encompassed me, but the heart of could not encompass me, but the heart of a believer encompasses me, which means the heart of the believer is that device that speaks the voice of God, and that voice of God comes in the form of a very gentle whisper of intuition. And we're all trying to open that intuition so we can have direct access to that divine wisdom, divine knowledge, and unveiling. And to do that, silence is important, right? We we need to have more moments of stillness, silence, slowing down. And when we start doing that, automatically the dust settles, the noise goes away, and we can start to hear. And it takes time to trust that voice because we were never modeled that. The world doesn't model it, the world doesn't give it any validation. But we have to work on that to be able to access this name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rahim, which is for his very special friends. I would like to end the session now with a dua. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. O Allah, I come to you in my utter brokenness and inability, where I find no power in changing anything about myself, Ya Allah, because I have struggled for years. Oh Allah, it's only in your power and hands to change my state, like you change the day into night and the night into day, the way you change hearts, the way you change visions, Ya Allah. I ask you to change my state to a better state, the one that you would like to see me in. Oh Allah, I pray to you because I see my utter helplessness in this, and I realize it to the core that it is only in your power and will to change. And my work here is to just show my willingness, Ya Allah. So I come to you with this little meager um, trying, little meager effort in showing my willingness, Ya Allah. And only you can change my willingness into tangible results, into real change, Ya Allah. So I pray to you for a healing of my heart and of all the other suffering of this world that has found itself in this position, which is so perplexing and confusing, Ya Allah. We are running away, Ya Allah, but there's no point in running away. Oh Allah, ground us, center us so that we can really go inwards in this journey and truly unlock the secrets of your unseen, the secrets of your infinite treasure to find proximity with you, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, make us a means of healing for others and enable the hastening of your Savior soon, Ya Mahdi. Oh Allah, we pray for all the marhumin, and I would request all of you to pray a Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. I'm going to end the recording now, and I will open the floor for questions.